Hello everyone, welcome back to Pack Rat's Shack. This week we have a very simple chair, so you would think. Turned out to have several huge problems along the way. That front piece is very loose. It's broken away from the joinery on the two side pieces it's connected to, but the legs going up into that piece are also loose. Very loose. They can come right on out. Also, the circumference on the bottom of this one leg is different than the other. It's much narrower, and that's because it's still at its original length. The other leg is quite a bit shorter, almost a whole fingertip. And yes, that's quite accurate measurements, by the way. Hi, my name is Packy, creator of Pack Rat's Shack. I upcycle furniture, build out of pallet wood, finish interior spaces, and have a vendor booth for my creations. Welcome to my world. Of course, I get started as always with a simple green cleaning and continual evaluation of the piece. The reason this leg has gotten so short is because it was being stored in a basement for an extended amount of time, and the bottom butt ends of the legs had continual moisture wicking going on. In fact, I'm not sure if all of this is just soft, rotted wood that has decayed out along the grain, or if there's also a little bit of pest damage here. I know how I'm going to fix the front edge, so after my piece is clean and dry, I start gluing and clamping. I'm still thinking about how I'm going to fix these leg ends. What I decided to do was mix up some of my Minwax 2-part wood filler and pack it up into the open grains of the butt end of this shorter foot. I then made a barrier with painter's tape so I could pack in more of the wood filler to get that extra 1/4 inch or so that I needed. I'm hoping that with all the connections made with the rugged wood fibers that this will bond well. The other foot didn't need to grow, but the fibers still needed filled in. So I also used the wood filler to pack in the areas on that foot as well. I also used the filler to fill in any of the cracks along the top edge joinery that I glued and clamped. I then go ahead and sand and shape it to size. As I sand all the wood filler flush, I go ahead and scuff sand the whole piece to prep it for painting. My initial thought was to match this chair to the old 1927 desk that I painted back in October. These pieces were given to me by a friend who said they were always together for as far back as she could remember. I started with Rust-Oleum primer because this is a chair and I want the most durable finish I can get. So I want to start the project with setting it up for the best adhesion possible. After that's dried and cured in, I follow it up with Krylon Fusion 5-time adhesion spray in the coffee bean color. This is what I used as the undertones on that desk. So here, now I'm thinking that this finish is so nice and smooth that I might just leave this chair the coffee bean brown. It looks really good, and I know it would help bring out the coffee bean undertones when it's sitting by the desk. So since I decide that I'm going to leave it, I go ahead and I spray it with Rust-Oleum Satin Clear Enamel for that extra protection because enamel is a very strong finish. Well, it's not looking so nice and smooth anymore. What a disaster! Apparently, that Rust-Oleum enamel did not fuse well with the Krylon Fusion paint. So this did not happen to me when I was refinishing that antique desk, and that's because I did not add a protective coat to it after doing the 5-time adhesion coffee bean spray because I knew I was going to be adding layers to it. This time I decided to add this extra protection because it was such a nice smooth finish and the chair looked so good. I suddenly changed my mind and I thought, well, I'm finished, so let's put a finish coat and make it extra strong because it's a chair that will get a lot of use and abuse on it. Well, that apparently is where I made my mistake So all I can do is move forward, which means I have to sand all of this crackled finish back smooth. I do get it smooth to the touch, but you can still see the imperfection. So that's when I decide to go ahead and do another layer of the Krylon Fusion coffee bean. I must just be a glutton for punishment because I'm already thinking this is a product compatibility issue, and yes, I believe it is because this cracked again. And I did have to go back and sand it down yet again, which I skipped because I've already showed you that once, and this one wasn't as bad, so you know how it goes. So I was already getting an inkling before this last layer crackled, but now I am for sure. I need to go back to plan A. I will not be able to retrieve a smooth finish visually on this, even if it feels smooth. So my only option is, again, return to plan A, make it look the same as I made the antique desk, which means there'll be layers of painting covering all of this that I've already done. Now, when it comes to chalk paints, it's a good option because you can sand chalk paints back if you have to, which means I can put a coat on and it'll fill in any imperfections that you can see but you can't really feel yet. If I have to, I can sand that back smooth and then start layering my layers on over that. And I will eventually get to that smooth finish that I need on this chair. But also, you can use chalk paint and get a little bit of texture. Even if you don't want the look of texturing to be there, you can still kind of blend in and kind of make certain imperfections go away. So I'm using Dixie Belle's chalk mineral paint, and I start layering on with the Tea Rose. I do a second coat in this tea rose to get full coverage and to make sure all of these imperfections are filled in. I then move on to a custom made blend, which I don't have the antique desk here with me. It's already in the booth, so and I didn't use measurements, so I'm just kind of winging this. And I don't even think I have the exact same white paint I had on hand that I used back then. And I know that I started with the Dixie Belle chalk paint in chocolate. And I just use whatever white that I have on hand to dilute that down to make this chocolatey marshmallowy color. And what I happened to have on hand was a white in the Silk line, which I think it's saltwater. So I'm just estimating the amounts and trying to mix this up until I think I achieve that same chocolatey marshmallow color that I used on the antique desk. And that's what I'm using for the second layer of color. Now in this layer I am using some different techniques, a little bit of dabbing but a lot of swirling and rubbing in, and just to get that paint in there. And like I said, there's a way of adding texture without it being a visual texture that will eliminate any imperfections. So I'm just working with different techniques in order to get this looking as nice and smooth in the end as I possibly can. Then we're moving on to the third layer, which is where I am blending the two colors together. Some of you may be thinking why I did so many layers, kind of full solid color, but it just needed to be done to smooth out some of those imperfections that were visually there but you couldn't feel. So it was a way of applying the paint and getting a good base going. And it's just the way I went about it. So I'm in the middle of my blending layer and catastrophe strikes again. This poor chair has been through so much.
Oh, shoot.
You're heavier than you look, football. You okay, buddy? You okay, football? So, yes, even though you're probably thinking I'm crazy at this point, I did decide to protect this piece in that same Rust-Oleum clear coat enamel that initially caused the problems. Here, I believe it will not be an issue because there are so many layers of chalk paint separating the two products that did not work well together. Here I have already sprayed one coat of protective enamel on, and yes, I did another mistake. I got it a little heavy on that back front piece, so it looks heavy on the bottom edge, and I'm going to go ahead and sand that back. While I'm at it, I go ahead and scuff sand the piece so that there's a scuff sanding between the layers, and then I continue on with further sanding on the corners and worn edges to cause that distressed look. I use different grit sandpapers and a flat edge scraper and even a little pick to kind of get down in some deep areas. I then do another coat of enamel after that. After the clear coat is all dried in, I use Dixie Belle's Best Dang Wax in brown to further distress and bring out the depths of the piece. I persevered and I made it to the end. Boy, this piece came with a lot of problems, I'm telling you. Some of them which I caused. I would also like to say that if this chair was an actual full-size chair or a bigger chair, I would not rely on that two-part wood filler to grow that short leg. I only thought that it would work in this case because that wood filler is supposed to be so strong that you can actually even anchor in new hardware into it. And because this chair happens to be so small and dainty that it should never be under a heavy load anyways. I do think that the solid coffee bean color would have worked very well with this desk. It would have been a nice contrast and it would have brought out the same undertones that I started the desk out with by having that darker chair with it. But this chair just didn't want that. Apparently it was fighting tooth and nail to be matched with the desk so that it could possibly get bought together and always stay together as a pair. Apparently, I was straying a little off track when I was thinking that I might just keep it that coffee bean dark brown. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my channel with your friends and family. Actually, you don't think I could leave without saying Merry Christmas, do you? I mean, this is a perfect time to send out those holiday farewells. So I hope everybody watching this has a great and wonderful, fantastic, amazing time with their friends and family, and hopefully have a little bit of time off of your own work schedule so that you can have that quality time with your loved ones. I would like to thank all of you who are watching this video or any of my prior videos, because that is you giving me a gift. Your time spent watching my videos is helping support me in this journey, and it's a huge gift, and I greatly appreciate it. I really truly do hope that you and your loved ones have a wonderful holiday season, and I'll see you next year. Until next time, stay safe out there.